A showrunner involves doing 4 separate things. The first is script development. The second is the pre-production of an episode when you're about to shoot it. The third is the actual production of the episode. And the fourth is the post-production of the episode, meaning the cutting room and finishing the show. The showrunner is the person who is the overseer of all those 4 aspects of making a show, and at the same time being smart enough to delegate many aspects of those 4 categories to people smarter than himself. When you're approaching real-life characters, what you have to be sensitive to is the fact that they may have relatives who are still alive. You are trying to create conversations that they had that you weren't present for. And so what I like to do is I like to do a ton of research. I read dozens of books about Escobar or about the Colombian drug trade or about U.S. policy toward the drug trade. I interviewed people in Colombia, from narco lawyers. I interviewed the general who led raids against Escobar. I interviewed the former president of Colombia, Cesar Gaviria. And then it's my job to figure out how to take all of that information and all those interesting details and put them into stories that the viewer wants to watch. So first and foremost, my goal is entertainment, not education, it's entertainment. The showrunner who had the most influence on my career was a guy named James Conway. We would be in the writer's room and talking about the script. Throughout the day, there would be phone calls with all sorts of problems. He never lost his cool. What that taught me was 2 things. The showrunner must always be cool under fire, because you're being asked by the network or the studio to be in charge of the show. They don't want to hear you screaming about what the problems are. They want to know that everything is okay. The second thing Conway taught me was the job is problems. The job is an never-ending series of problems that you have to solve with the help of the talented crew you've hired. The thing I like most about my job is having written, not writing, but having written. The writing process to me is still where the core of the fun is. It's very difficult to come up with something that feels fresh and new because everything's been done before. It's tedious, but the joy really comes when you've written a great scene or you've finished a draft, and writing it is fun, and shooting it is quite a bit of fun too. I'm always looking for a fresh angle, taking something that you might have seen before that we all love and then juxtapose it with something else. So for example, I have a new show that I'm about to going to make called Godfather of Harlem. And it's about the collision of the criminal underworld and the civil rights movement in early 60s Harlem. And Forrest Whitaker is playing a real-life gangster named Bumpy Johnson, who was friends with Malcolm X. So I'm interested in the idea that crime affected the civil rights movement, and the civil rights movement affected the criminal underworld. We've all seen a million gangster shows, and we all love gangster shows. But what we don't want to see is a gangster show that's like all the ones we've seen before. I mean this honestly, most television shows that I've worked on, I don't choose when it ends. The audience chooses that they've stopped liking to watch it. I think, you want to make the show for as long as it makes sense to make it, as long as you have good stories to tell. You don't want to have it overstay its welcome, and at the same time, you hope it doesn't get cut off too short. My advice for an aspiring showrunner is a couple of things. There are seminars, informational sources on the internet where you can learn about the specifics of being a showrunner. So you can prepare yourself by studying. It's a very difficult position because you have to have a writer's mind and you have to have a producer's mind, which is a much more outgoing personality type. So essentially, if you're a control freak, then showrunning might be for you.